Hey there. It's been a while. What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, back here with your NXT review for January 2nd, 2019. And Jesus Christ, do we have a lot to go over, and I'm still tired. I'm still getting over a New Year's party that was 2 friggin' days ago and 1 full work day ago. This is the first real day of 2019. Because let's face it, New Year's doesn't count. Because you're sleeping off whatever you did the night before. Most people, if you live in the North America, see, I'm tired, have it as a stat day. So nobody's working unless you're an essential service. This is the first day of 2019. So, welcome, officially, and it also falls on Hump Day, so do with that what you will. I guess I should kick off with what I missed while, December sabbatical. Those of you that have been watching me for a long time know that that's a thing. Maybe it shouldn't be a thing, because I got a couple jots here of what we've missed. I mean, we did do the preview for TLC. TLC was awesome. I mean, Charlotte, Becky, Asuka, the TLC match, all that sort of stuff. Anything that I could mention right now. But as far as NXT, because we are talking about NXT, and there will be NXT UK reviews coming out sometime later this week, I'm going to work out the timing of the NXT UK reviews around whatever else I'm doing in the week. I'm going to keep NXT proper, or sorry, NXT, I guess you say NXT US, on Wednesdays. And what's going to happen is NXT UK is going to be done whenever I have the time. Hope that's not going to put a bug in anybody's ass. I mean, it's my channel, so it doesn't really matter if it does. But the NXT UK stuff was a little brutal towards the end of November last year. Basically cranking out 3 reviews. Not that I mind doing them. The NXT UK show is great. Obviously, my last review was Rhea Ripley becoming their champion, which is fucking amazing. We're going to talk about that more in a second as well. But basically, watch UK, do a review. Watch UK episode 2, do a review. Watch NXT proper, do a review. Was a bit rigorous, especially towards the end of the year, as I say, when things were getting quite busy. It will be easier, and I might try to double them up again when they're back to 1 episode a week instead of 2, because that's, I know why they're doing it, and I like that they're doing it. They're trying to get caught up, you know, the live event taping versus the kayfabe timing of it all. I get it. It's kind of funny when you see them constantly say, hey, this is what you're going to get next week, when really this is what you're going to get in about 45 minutes. But that's what's going on with that. So sometime either tomorrow or Friday, you'll get your NXT UK reviews. I'm supposed to do some topical videos over the December break. Those did not come around. I don't know whether they are going to or not. They may be collabs, they may be solos. So those are sort of waiting in the wings at the moment. Still going to do Ask the Phoenix. Obviously, check out the annotation up above for the last Ask the Phoenix if you want to be involved in the next one. The last one I did in November. Just around Survivor Series time. It's pretty cool. I know I've already got a couple people, the usual suspects, and you know who you are, putting the questions down in the box below. But yeah, over the course of December, randomly, Ricochet had an open challenge for the North American title, and it was answered by Tyler Breeze, which was the Christmas present from William Regal, which is awesome because, I mean, we haven't seen him in a while because his partner's been injured. But even when Fandango was around, you had them doing the backstage comedy bits, which ruined the Ascension, everything going forward. Breeze still loved in Full Sail. I mean, so much so that he answered another open challenge on Raw to Dean Ambrose, you know, what's the cliche joke that's kicking around right now? What is it, like Bane Ambrose or whatever, with the sirens and whatnot? They had a good match too, but nobody will admit it because it's on Raw, and you're not allowed to say that anything on Raw is good. Ricochet versus Breeze, Ambrose versus Breeze, both of them were really cool. I wonder if this means they're going to send him out on a solo run. I wonder if this means really bad things for the return of Fandango, but honestly, just get Fandango back there and put Breezango on NXT. I mean, we're losing a bunch of tag teams. We're going to get to that in a second as well. Speaking of tag teams that we're losing, we don't have TM61 anymore, or The Mighty, which just goes to show you when I hate something, it sticks around, and when I start to like something, it leaves. Nick Miller apparently went home to Australia to see his kid be born and isn't coming back. So hopefully, I was just starting to like their gimmick. I mean, you could very easily turn that into a solo gimmick. You could have, like, the mighty Shane Thorne. I mean, you've already got the almighty Bobby Lashley on Raw, which is really, really, really lame. But hopefully that doesn't hamper Shane Thorne. Hopefully he doesn't, you know, throw the baby out with the bathwater, like, which is another terrible, horrible metaphor, which is not good. You know, all good and well wishes for Nick Miller, you know, choosing to do the family thing. That's fine. It's not the first time we've seen that, but when you leave and you're part of a tag team, you might be affecting more than just yourself. That's the unfortunate bit of it all. Another great thing we got was the never-ending story between Black, Gargano, and Ciampa with that great cage match on NXT between Black and Gargano. The interference from Ciampa, the DIY double team, which has everybody kicking up a fuss about DIY getting back together. I mean, as I say with Breezango, they may have walked themselves into a corner where they're losing team after team after team. I mean, they've already sacrificed all the other teams. The latest ones were the Authors of Pain, who have a manager that pisses himself, to the main roster. So if they are going to put these guys back together as a heel team to take on guys like the Street Profits, Lorcan and Birch, etc., I mean, what you're doing there is you're taking one champion and one guy that should have been champion by now, putting them back in the tag team division. It's only going to raise the stakes of the tag team division. And I'm not going to lie, Lorcan and Birch versus DIY, reunited heel DIY, is a match that I really want to see. But the cage match was great. Ciampa's interference at the end, it bothers me once again because Aleister Black was the champion. And whether he was in the match or not, his championship reign and his presence in the championship picture was always overshadowed by Gargano and Ciampa. Now, that's nothing bad about them. They just overshone the champion. Good for them. I just hope they have a way to recover Black. The McMahons came to the main roster, and after week after week after week after week after week of steadily falling off a cliff Raw ratings, they said, we're here to shake things up and we're going to get rid of the authority figures, and now we're going to have 4 authority figures, and you're going to see new faces. So here, have a whole chunk of them. We already kind of knew that Lars Sullivan was going to go up to the main roster, but joining him is going to be Lacey Evans. Yay! EC3, which is great. He's going to do better on the main roster than he did in NXT. He's going to follow guys like Elias and Baron Corbin and Alexa Bliss and generally be somebody that thrives. I mean, Braun Strowman's the best example. He was one of the Rosebuds, wasn't he? Or was he one of I don't know, the Conga line or some... Adam Wilborn would be able to tell you if he was in the Conga line. But anyway, that's another story for another day, and he probably doesn't watch these videos. Nikki Cross is coming up, which is a catch-22, because I hope they don't fuck her up. And I know that's the really cliche thing to say, but when I say I don't want them to fuck her up, I don't want them to just throw her into sanity again. I know that's crazy, because that's her gimmick, and they never really changed her or them, but Nikki Cross can be an entity on her own, and she's one of the ones, like Alexa Bliss, who never got to be her own entity. Alexa Bliss was saddled with Blake and Murphy. Both of those guys are doing better now, thank fucking God. But Nikki Cross could go to the main roster and could do something awesome on her own. So if Sanity stay on SmackDown, I hope she goes to Raw. And there's not very many opportunities for me to say I hope somebody goes to Raw, but I hope she does. And then Heavy Machinery is going up, which is going to be great. I think we're going to get comedy matches from them immediately. We're going to see them taking on the New Day because, you know, steaks and pancakes. That's a thing. In other news, Bianca Belair won a Fatal 4-Way against... she won a Fatal 4-Way that was basically established by William Regal based on results from house shows, which is kind of weird. It was Bianca Belair, Lacey Evans, Io Shirai, and Mia Yim. Now, Io Shirai should have a spotlight. Mia Yim should have a spotlight. Nah. Lacey Evans is filler at the best of times. She could be filler on Raw too, isn't she? Oh yes. Bianca Belair is the #1 contender for Shayna Baszler's championship at TakeOver before the Royal Rumble. Now, to reiterate, for anybody that's watching that's new, my problem with Bianca Belair, her gimmick is shit. And her gimmick is annoying, and the hair whip thing is annoying. And I don't say that because I don't like her. I say that because I do like her. I think she's phenomenal in the ring. I think even with all the praise that people are putting on her right now, I think she's still being under-credited for what she can do in the ring. She showed what she could do in the Mae Young Classic. She's shown what she can do ever since on the NXT roster. I just... stop doing the hair whip. And stop doing the EST, STD of NXT shit, because it sounds forced at this point. Whatever. Mia Yim, brand new rock star out of the Mae Young Classic. Cedric Alexander of this year's Mae Young Classic. And you job her out to a hair whip and a really bad gimmick that's unfortunately been saddled onto a really great wrestler. That's really unfortunate. I'm happy for her, because like I say, in the ring she's great. In the ring I think she's going to give Baszler a good match. I don't think she's going to win, but that's besides the point. We got the great news that NXT UK is getting a takeover this year in January. NXT UK Takeover Blackpool. And so far for that we've got Pete Dunne versus Joe Coffey, which is going to be awesome. I really would have loved it to be Pete Dunne versus Wolfgang, but that's just because I happen to like Wolfgang. Or Pete Dunne versus Jordan Devlin again would also be really good. Rhea Ripley versus Toni Storm. Take my fucking money and my heart and my soul and just there. Throw Isla Dawn into the mix and just have that be the main event. I don't even care. Pete Dunne's been like a 500-day champion. He doesn't need to be the main event. He will be the main event. But Ripley Storm could be a main event. NXT TakeOver for us over here in North America. So far we've got Ciampa versus Black, which is going to be great. Gargano's going to get involved, I'm sure. And Baszler versus Belair, as we just said. Now, looking outside of the NXT bubble for a second, All Elite Wrestling, aka Please Watch Us, We're Not WWE, So We're Trendy Wrestling, is finally official. Yay! Moving on. Mean Gene Okerlund passed away just this morning. It was announced, and I can't do it justice. I'm not going to sit here and do a monologue about Mean Gene. It sucks. He is the voice of when backstage personalities had voices. One of Hulk Hogan's famous quotes and one of Ric Flair's famous quotes are about Mean Gene. You know, when Ric Flair would do the mean, woo, by God, Gene, or if you got Hulk Hogan doing the, well, let me tell you something, Mean Gene. Terrible. I shouldn't do impressions. That's not the point. Mean Gene passed away. Very, very sad. The people that are immediately up there with the quips about, well, when we make our 2019 list, I know we know who's going to be first, can go fuck off, because that's just vulgar on all kinds of levels. I will encourage you to go check out guys like OKFabe or Good Mic Work, because they will probably say something better about the passing of Mean Gene than I can muster in the middle of this NXT review. And I want to just say in general, while I've got those two guys on my mind, I want to say thank you to the audiences of OKFabe and of Good Mic Work, because you guys have done a lot of work and given me a lot of love on Twitter and gotten my channel up to, you know, not where I want it to be, but closer to where I want it to be. Still relatively small in this community. I get it. It's a hobby. I'm not doing this as a job, but the slight growth in numbers that I have had over the past couple of months has largely been because of those two audiences, and those two audiences wouldn't be there if it wasn't for those two guys, and they're just generally good dudes that you should go check out if you've been living under a rock. But speaking of Twitter, oh yes, Twitter. Mentioned it already, mentioned my thoughts on how January 2nd is really the first day of 2019. So what does your buddy, your pal, Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, what does he receive as a New Year's present? I got banned from Twitter for a week for telling the truth about Nia Jax and how Nia Jax has sort of become the face of weaponized identity. Anybody not familiar with the term, either look it up or hit me up in the comment section, and I'll have a discussion about that, because I really don't want to do a rant about it right now. Might do it later, won't do it now. Nia Jax is terrible, and if you're going to block me on Twitter for saying that Nia Jax is terrible, you're pretty fucking pathetic. There we go. Now, it wasn't who I think it was, unless it was a sock account. Pretty damn sure that it was the Townsends from the Married Mark's Agenda podcast. Now, not going to say that they have sock accounts, but I see you. Shannon, I can't miss you. Just saying, putting it out there. Anyways, that's what we've missed in the past month. And after talking about what we've missed in the last month, we're going to spend an entire episode of NXT talking about what somebody would have missed if they didn't watch all year, because that's basically what this show was. This show was a giant, it was a recap of 2018, which is fine. It's all good. It was setting up for the year-end awards, which is all fine and all good. And one match. And if you're going to have a one-match show, your one match should not be Kassius Ohno versus Matt Riddle. Why? Because that match has Kassius Ohno in it. We're going to get there, though. We start off the show with obviously the tribute to Mean Gene. WWE always does the tributes really well. I'm sure there'll be a more elaborate tribute when we get to Raw and SmackDown next week. We all know this is pre-taped. There wasn't going to be anything on air with people on the rampway, etc., because this was taped a while ago. Plus, most of it took place in the NXT Control Center with Kathy Kelly. And I was watching. Then we go into the intro like we usually do, and I noticed something. And this is me nitpicking to the nth degree. And you guys know I feel free to nitpick NXT because it is the best thing WWE does on a regular basis. Watch the intro, because it's changed a couple of times. Watch the intro to NXT, because that intro is meant to be their intro for the weekly show. Almost all of that intro is footage from takeovers, from pay-per-views, from events not the weekly show. I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen it before on SmackDown, Raw. We've seen it various places. We've seen it even with NXT UK, because it was a lot of it is footage from the original tournament. But it's funny to see, only because NXT does all their stuff in such a small arena at Full Sail, which is awesome, which is part of what gives it its feel. It's funny that so much of their intro footage is from a Raw or SmackDown sized arena. It's not a new idea. I'm not the first person to notice this, obviously, but it's one of those nights where, we're not going to get too much out of this show, so I start nitpicking the little things. Let me know down in the box below if you think that matters at all. I just found it incredibly hilarious. Anyways, Kathy Kelly in the NXT Control Center gives us our first highlight of 2018, and it is the takeover before WrestleMania. It is the 6-way ladder match when Adam Cole became the first ever NXT North American champion. Now they smash cut quickly to the next pay-per-view where that title was defended, and it was won by Ricochet, which is fine. Because that match did two things. It reinforced in my mind that Adam Cole was a main eventer. I mean, I've already been saying that Adam Cole is the reincarnation of Shawn Michaels, so he's a main eventer. But for me, who wasn't that familiar with Ricochet and relatively new to Ricochet, and the first time I saw Ricochet was at an NXT house show taking on Buddy Murphy. It solidified Ricochet to me. So those two guys, I mean, Adam Cole obviously came out with the belt, so good for him, and he went on to have a great further night and all that sort of thing, Undisputed Era, etc., etc., etc. But the other one, the one that won by losing was Ricochet, because he put in a highlight reel performance in that match, and it was all really good. So we see Adam Cole becoming the champion, winning it for the first time, becoming the first, because you can't have any more champions until you've got the first, as the old expression goes. But then you see Ricochet take it, and that's important because Ricochet won it the first time it was defended, and that's a different scenario. It would be like, what's a terrible example that I could think of right now? When Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman fought in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, because that was a thing, over the vacant Universal title. because Roman Reigns and his leukemia and all that terrible stuff that Kristen and I did the video on at the time. They were scrambling for the belt. It wasn't one guy defending it against another. When we get Royal Rumble and that comes along, it will be a different thing. It's the same thing here. I mean, the six-way ladder match was a lot better than Strowman versus Lesnar. Let's be real for a second. Baron Corbin decided the winner of that match. But it's really cool, and you got these two guys, and I mean the Adam Cole Ricochet match gave us that sweet spot of the, you know, super kick to the guy that's already doing a flip off the ropes and all that. And everybody in their highlights of 2018 mentioned that at least once. Anyways, from there we go to Breakout Star of the Year, or the nominations for Breakout Star of the Year. I think they're going to announce this at Takeover before Royal Rumble, if that's if they haven't changed it from last year. But the nominations, sorry. As I say, guys, please excuse me. Really tired. First day back to work. Not entirely with it. So if you stick with me to the end, then you guys are nicer than me. The nominees are Ricochet, which is enough said. Dakota Kai. I like her, but has she had enough success in NXT this year to be called a breakout star? She didn't break out. The title opportunities that she had, she got destroyed by Shayna Baszler. So putting my bias aside, I don't know. Lars Sullivan makes me roll my eyes. Rhea Ripley tells you that they're acknowledging NXT UK in these awards as well, which is great. War Raiders is an interesting one because you've got a tag team in with a bunch of singles people. Lacey Evans, Supposedly when the Forgotten Sons were debuting their new gimmick on house shows, she was part of that gimmick, and it was a complete 180 from this bitchy feminist bullshit that she's doing on TV. And I don't know why they didn't do that. Because they could have had Sanity come back for one night and have like 4-on-4 mixed tag. They could have done something cool. EC3 has been injured, so again, as much as I like the guy, how do you call him a breakout star of the year? He's going to break out on the main roster, like I said, and Bianca Belair, I can talk about until I'm blue in the face. The next few highlights that Kathy Kelly from the NXT Control Center brought us were everything surrounding Gargano, Ciampa, Black, Gargano, Ciampa, Black, Gargano, Ciampa, Black. And they all kind of run together, so we'll just go over the story really quickly. From DIY being a tag team to Ciampa turning on Gargano to Gargano Ciampa 1 in New Orleans to the rematch in Chicago making the score 1-1 to Black ascending to championship gold, beating Andrade Cien Almas in that match, which was also great. We see Black's title reign. We see Black versus Ciampa, where it's actually Gargano's bitterness towards Ciampa that cost Black the match. Ciampa becomes champion. Aleister Black gets attacked. We have the whole investigation angle. Now, you guys know that were following me last year. I hate the investigation angle. I think it's so put on, and it's not something that I expect from NXT. But if I put that aside, William Regal pulled it off pretty well, as the frustrated guy that's pulling his hair out, trying to keep his roster together and trying to solve this terrible thing that's happened. Plus, you got Nikki Cross in the background, freaking my heart's one true soul, Nikki Cross, doing her whole I've got a secret, and she played that off wonderfully. So it made it palatable to me. But with Black in the background, you had Gargano Ciampa 3 for the title, and he loses. And Ciampa's still the champion. Gargano then gets revealed as the attacker. We have Gargano versus Black at WarGames, and then their rematch in the cage, where, as we said before, Ciampa comes back. They do the DIY, double kick thing, which kicks everybody off, wondering if we're going to get a heel DIY. You can't talk about any one of these things because each one of these things loops into the rest, and we're going to talk about the final result of that later on, because there's a very curious little thing that they're doing with the awards here that I don't know if I quite agree with, but it is enough to get you scratching your chin and say it's very, very interesting. Nominations for Tag Team of the Year: Lorcan and Birch, the Street Profits, Heavy Machinery, Mustache Mountain, the War Raiders, and Undisputed Era. Now, You got a bunch of different situations here. You got what was a thrown together team in Lorcan and Birch. You got the Street Profits, who are a lot of fun. Heavy Machinery, who are a lot of fun but are on their way out the door. Mustache Mountain, who are great but technically part of a faction and been signed to the UK brand, so technically they're not in this NXT anymore. War Raiders, who are great and haven't really had that one shining moment yet. I mean, WarGames could be their moment, but they shared it with two other guys that aren't part of their team. And you've got Undisputed Era, which isn't a tag team, it's a four-man faction. So you're comparing apples and oranges and grapes. But in the sense that the two members of Undisputed Era that are the tag team champions are Strong and O'Reilly. If you're doing just those two guys, then you're not talking about a team. You're talking about half of a faction, which is weird. Lorcan and Birch, as I say, proved what they could be as a team, and a couple of the teams, like I said, are going off to other brands, be it Raw, SmackDown, or NXT UK. So it's very... And I know there's other people that we're going to talk about later on that are also going onto the main roster or already have gone to the main roster. I don't know if I agree with that either, just saying. The next highlight we have is TakeOver Chicago, Lorcan and Birch versus Strong and O'Reilly. This is an interesting thing for them to bring back and highlight because this was the coming out party for Lorcan and Birch. Lorcan and Birch did almost verbatim the Sheamus and Cesaro thing. They fought. They gained some respect for each other. They became a great team. Now, nobody thought that they were going to win, myself included. I wanted it for them, but you could see what they were doing with the Undisputed Era, and there was nothing gonna stop that momentum right now. So it was sort of like a win, place, or show situation where they just went in there and had the most spectacular loss they could possibly have. They are a fantastic team. They opened up a lot of eyes. They were booed at the beginning of the match, and they were getting the ovation at the end. Strong and O'Reilly were in the popular, cool group, sort of like NWO of today's era, and so they were getting cheered even though they were the heels. And then they got booed as the heels for defeating the guys that won us over in the match. That's a fucking fantastic story. That is, as I said, a coming out party for Lorcan and Birch. One of them got hurt after that. I don't remember off the top of my head who it was, but I want to believe that they would have ridden that momentum into possibly another title shot or even a title reign at this point if they hadn't been stunted. Also, Danny Burch versus Pete Dunne on NXT UK last year should be nominated for something. I mean, Pete Dunne has fought Jordan Devlin. He's fought Noam Dar, which was a really good match. He's fought Zach Gibson and made everybody take the shoes off and do that whole gimmick. But Danny Burch arriving in NXT UK, establishing himself against Pete Dunne, not winning, and once again I say it's sort of a win, place, or show situation. He went in there and had the most spectacular loss he could possibly have. Really, really good shout. I wouldn't have predicted that they would stuck this match in here, but it was a very important match because Lorcan and Birch aren't necessarily the shiny new toy type of superstar that Street Profits or Heavy Machinery or the War Raiders are. You know, these highly marketable characters where, no, these guys are just going to come and knock your head off. It would be wrong, but very easy to overlook them when you're talking about a whole year's worth of wrestling for a match that only happened once, and I'm glad they didn't. Rivalry of the year. Now, this is interesting. This is interesting, and as I said before, I question giving out the awards for people that have already gone, because what it's really doing is it's giving kudos to another brand. Gargano versus Almas is a prime example of that. Baszler versus Moon is a prime example of that. Gargano versus Ciampa is an example of that. Undisputed Era versus Mustache Mountain is kind of an example of that. Dream versus Ricochet is obviously going to be there. Baszler versus Sane is obviously going to be there. And the last nominee for Rivalry of the Year, you've got Gargano Ciampa on there, but you've also got Gargano Ciampa Black Cross. I don't know how that works, because none of them are going to have a match with Nikki Cross anytime soon. And I mean, really, if you were going to do that sort of expanded, sort of ridiculous scenario there, it should have been LeRae, Gargano, Ciampa, Black Cross. But I guess they're not going to do that. Future Star of the Year, which is just like, here's the folks that haven't really done much yet award, which is awkward. Matt Riddle, Mia Yim, Keith Lee, The Forgotten Sons, Candice LeRae, Marina Shafir, and Jessamine Duke are one entry. Kona Reeves, Dominic Dijakovic, which is a stupid name, and obviously Io Shirai, the runner-up in this year's Mae Young Classic, which is all good. Matt Riddle, yeah, don't know much about him. I know he's an MMA guy. I know he's done some cool shit on the indies. Don't watch the indies other than Destiny, so brand new to me. Like what he's doing so far. We're going to talk about it in a second. Mia Yim, second time around, Mae Young Classic. As I said, she was the Cedric Alexander of the second Mae Young Classic, where you had people, you know, chanting her name, wanting her to be signed, even though she wasn't the winner of the whole fucking thing. Forgotten Sons, again, is weird because you're putting a faction into this category that has a bunch of singles wrestlers. Same thing with Shafir and Duke. Shafir and Duke on TV have had one match, and they weren't even singles matches. Now, I'm not saying bring them in and let them fight each other and let's show what we can do, but it's just very strange to have what I guess is going to be a tag team and a faction in this whole thing. Now, the other thing we got announced on the main roster by Vince McMahon Claus, because that wasn't creepy, was we are finally getting the long-rumored women's tag team championships. And the rumor is we're only going to get one, so there's not going to be a SmackDown and a Raw one, thank fucking God. But if this is going to be a floating title, and it could possibly come to all the brands, could we see Shafir and Duke be in that scenario? Then, okay, Future Star of the Year, give it to them, let them share that accomplishment, and then let them have a tag team story. But if not, I don't get it. One of the other highlights of the year, not that I have anything against either of these women, and I've already explained the Belair thing, but they brought up a random Bianca Belair versus Deonna Purrazzo match from a random episode of NXT, which is nice. Match of the year, in a voiceover, Kathy Kelly starts talking about some of the matches that she liked this year, and then said, if you want to see all the nominations for Match of the Year, go to WWE.com. So that was kind of a middle finger. Then we've got male, female, and overall superstar of the year. For the male, it is Adam Cole, obviously. Pete Dunne, obviously. Andrade Almas, see what I said before. Ricochet, Velveteen Dream, Johnny Gargano, Alistair Black, and Tommaso Ciampa. So, anybody that's been in the main event scene. For the females, you got Ember Moon, see what I said before. Nikki Cross, Kairi Sane, Bianca Belair, and Shayna Baszler. Now, any of those people from any of those two categories can also be nominated for Superstar of the Year. I don't know why they do the third category, because all you're really doing there is, say, for example, this is, again, I said this at the beginning of this video, this is me nitpicking to the nth degree. I have no problem with any of these people getting all the acknowledgement that they want to give them. But say Adam Cole wins for the men and Nikki Cross wins for the women, and then Nikki Cross wins the whole thing. Nikki Cross gets 2 awards that basically say the same thing, and in the process we say, well, the women are better than the men this year. It's weird. If you want to have one award for Superstar of the Year and put all these nominees in it, I have no problem with that. You know, equal playing field for everybody. Why segregate? You know, the guys and girls are trying to be equal and all that sort of thing. Fine. If you want to break it up, have an award for the women, an award for the men, fine. I don't know why they're doing both. It's very strange. Anyways, the only match tonight, Matt Riddle versus Cassius Ohno, and we get the whole history between Matt Riddle and Cassius Ohno, and it's just one of those, watching the highlight video, and you know WWE do great video packages, they do great build-up, they do great production, they can make you excited about any match that doesn't have Cassius Ohno in it. I'm just saying. Matt Riddle, they're setting up Ohno to be this sort of like, because he's never going to be on the main roster. Let's be real for a second. Catastrophe Dad Bod is never going to be on the main roster. I don't want him on the main roster. I don't even really want him in NXT. He is the Nia Jax of NXT, except he hasn't, you know, broken anybody's face yet. He doesn't have a shopping list this long about all the people that he's injured, so he doesn't have that going for him. But realistically, what the hell? I get that the guy has dealt with health issues throughout his life. Props to him for that. Kudos to him for that, you know, overcoming that, you know, showing the perseverance and whatever. As a person, he's probably a great guy. I'm making the John Cena arguments here. as a person, he's probably a great guy. As a well-traveled superstar, if I sat down and had a beer with him, or a Smirnoff in my case, he's probably got some great stories. He could probably show me some great matches that he was in with, you know, Daniel Bryan and Tyler Black and Jon Moxley and all these other people. I'm sure he's got a wealth of knowledge. I'm sure he's got a wealth of knowledge that he could pass on to the people in the Performance Center. I'm sure he's got a wealth of knowledge to pass on in a producer role, in a matchmaking role, and whatever. I just don't care when he's on TV. I don't. And by proxy, it makes me not care about his opponent, which, as I said, you've got Matt Riddle, who's friggin' really, really unique, especially to somebody like me who hasn't seen him in the indies. Why are we wasting our time with Cassius? I don't get it. Anyways, I wasn't even going to talk about this match. I was just going to come up and say, they had this match and somebody won. But anyways, series of chops, corner kicks, and a forearm by Riddle. Exploder suplex by Riddle, which is no small feat because of the size of Cassius Ohno. Then Riddle mocks Cassius Ohno doing his own running senton, which made me smile a whole bunch and might be the only reason I'm talking about this match. Knee strikes by Riddle and some more chops. For no reason at all, Cassius Ohno pulls off an X-Plex, which is nice. Mudhole and some boots to the face. And we get a "Let's Go Bro" chant from the crowd. And then from there we got palm strikes by Riddle, German suplex by Riddle with a fucking beautiful bridge. And then, say it with me, folks, say it loud, say it proud. For the first time in 2019, Matt Riddle gave us some Daniel Bryan silly kicks. Oh yes. Moving on. More palm strikes. Another roundhouse kick by Riddle. A senton by Ohno gets countered into the bro mission, and Riddle gets the win. He shows some sportsmanship. He goes for a fist bump to Cassius Ohno, who just stands there on the ramp looking really, really sad. Does the whole halfway up the ramp walk, comes back, beats him down like the sore loser that he is, and throws him into the steps, and that's the end of the show. I mean, cool stuff from Matt Riddle. Props to him for being able to exploder suplex Cassius Ohno. Props to him for hitting Ohno's own senton on him, which made me laugh a whole bunch. Really made me LOL, I guess. Yeah, I'm really tired, guys. Sorry. But please give him something. I mean, he fought the other guy that everybody was all hyped up about. I'm going to get it wrong, but Punishment Martinez. That was cool. I don't know that guy. I don't know Matt Riddle. Let them impress me together. Let me form an opinion about them, because they are the ones that are eventually going to end up on the main roster. People already want Matt Riddle to face Brock Lesnar. I don't want Brock Lesnar in WWE ever again. But if he is there, I'd like to see him fight Matt Riddle. Okay, all right. Anyways, I've rambled enough about that. It was a decent effort by Matt Riddle, and Cassius Ohno is struggling to remain relevant as we head into 2019. Anyways, really nice recap of the year. I mean, it's a recap show. It is what it is. We got the awards out there. Some of them I agree with, some of them I don't. We're going to see the results at TakeOver, which is going to be fine. I don't know what... There's not very much to say about a show like this, but I've been talking for 38 minutes, so go figure that one out. Gonna get the NXT UK reviews out to you guys sometime later this week. This has been the first NXT review for 2019. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, me and my scratchy ass voice are tagging out. Bye, guys.
They can hold you down. You were born to rise. It's our time now to come out. If you're a freak like me.